By the grace of the Lord, Kamsa felt sincere regret for having unnecessarily persecuted such Vaishnavas as Devaki and Vasudeva. And thus he came to the transcendental stage of knowledge. Quote, because I am situated on the platform of knowledge, end of quote, Kamsa said, quote, understanding that I am not at all the killer of your sons, I have no responsibility for their death. As long as I thought that I would be killed by your son, I was in ignorance. But now I am free from this ignorance, which was due to a bodily conception of life. End of quote. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18:17, Jasya nahan krito bhavo buddhir jasya nalipyate hatva api sa imal lokam nahanti na nibadyate. Quote, one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, is not the slayer, nor he is bound by his actions. According to this, end of quote. According to this axiomatic truth, Kamsa pleaded that he was not responsible for having killed the sons of Devaki and Vasudeva. Quote, please try to excuse me for such false external activities, end of quote, he said. Quote, and be pacified with the same knowledge, end of quote. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhuttade Shimate Romapada Swami Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhuttade Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Satarine. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We all go to times in which we feel an action that we have taken, we want to take it back. We feel some remorse on the result of a particular action, when we come to understand that it's something that we should have not done. Everybody goes at once, through our life we actually find ourselves in that situation. We want to take back. We want to go back in time and do it differently. Because we understand we have made a mistake. So the natural remorse and repentance comes, to oneself, and one realizes that. And one likes to correct the situation. We'll want to actually straight up whatever mess we made by whatever action we did that was wrong. So that's a natural thing that the conditioned soul have to go over and over and over. Because by design, the conditioned souls, condition means that you are prone to these 4 faults. We heard that the other day by His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu. He was, pointing out these 4 defects of a conditioned soul, one is that we make mistakes. It's just wired to make mistakes. Why? Because we're an illusion. The illusion is that we think that we are something that we're not. And with that, then naturally we have some delusional idea of the self. We have these conceptions of the self that it boils down to this position of I am and this is mine. I have some control over a particular situation. The other one is that we have the propensity to cheat, to lie, to cheat others, to try to present like these days there is this term that came, from the government, that is alternative truth or alternative reality, in order to rationalize or cover one's mistakes, create this sense that we're quite perfect, we are right. Like the other day we were reading about Hitler, quote, you tell a lie many times until it becomes, the norm, and then it becomes now this is the truth. If you do that very consistently. And the last one is we have imperfect senses. So naturally, the life of a conditioned soul is making constant mistakes, messing up. If there is some goodness, then we become repentance. And in the case of Kamsa, it is explained here, Srila Prabhupada explained, by the grace of the Lord, he felt sincere regret. He actually felt regret. How this understanding that he did something wrong came about? By being chastised. Being chastised means that the delusion that he is in complete control, or we are in complete control, that we know it all, then becomes broken. And then we realize how vulnerable we are. That is something more powerful than us. And then we have no control over that. And in that position of facing our own vulnerability, then, now I realize I'm in trouble. And, I am not, this powerful controller. And then that brings out those feelings of, regret or repentance, or we would like to correct the situation. If there is some goodness there, most people is a mix of, demoniac and goodness, like that. Most people were like that. So chastisement, sometimes, if we find ourselves, that all of a sudden you get caught in a situation by the law and then now you're in trouble. You can actually be punished very badly. Then that's when God, all these things comes into this repentance comes. So Kansa had that situation. He was chastised by a powerful force, Durga Devi, that he understood. She is more powerful than me. And when he realized he was chastised like that, then now he could understand power. He was basically going to perfectly control the situation. He will kill whatever he have to kill, and he's in control. When it was shown that he was not in control, then now is that when those feelings come. So he's actually feeling repentant, sincerely repentant. Now, the very interesting and important point that we have to come to understand from this pastime is that we have these very good things that are necessary for, in one sense, to progress in our Krishna consciousness. One is to recognize that we make mistakes, so become repentant. It's important to understand that there's something greater than us, a vulnerability, that we are not in control, that we're dependent. And another one is transcendental knowledge. Becoming to understand that we're not the body, that we're a spirit soul. Remember that was the first set of instructions that Krishna gave to Arjuna to help him become free from the being overcome by lamentation and by bewilderment, being perplexed. So he received the instructions that you are not the body, you're a spirit soul, the Atma Tattva, knowledge, the ABC. But we see that in this case, as we're going to hear in the next verses, that although Kamsa, with all this, with repentance, sincere repentance, with performing an action to show his repentance, and by showing transcendental knowledge, he was not able to become free from his condition, the conditional life. He's going to bounce back to the demoniac position. So he's talking transcendental knowledge here. He has it as his tip. He understands these things. So it's quite remarkable that we can have transcendental knowledge, or at least, cultivate transcendental knowledge, and able to speak transcendental knowledge. We can go through the different process of atonement, and when we commit a mistake, through repentance, to recognizing that we commit a mistake, and still we won't be able to become free of the victimization of our conditional nature. So it's quite remarkable. So what is the solution? Well, before going to the solution, is actually explained by Lord Brahma. He compares that knowledge without surrendering to Krishna is like beating the husk of a grain of wheat that has been already opened and beaten. Lord Brahma makes a comparison. So you take the how you call that, the stems with the grain, with the husk, but you having already done, and you start to try to get the grain out of the thing, but it's just useless labor. Let me see how it says here. A person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain. One who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. The verse goes like this: My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in cultivation of a speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Prabhupada says that similarly, when a foolish person who throws his mind again and again in the pursuit of knowledge without surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the very substance and goal of knowledge, just as grain is the substance and goal of the entire agricultural effort, Vedic knowledge, or indeed material science without the personality of Godhead is exactly like an empty and useless husk of wheat. So this knowledge without proper surrendering to the personality of Godhead is not going to give you the desired result, which is becoming free from the illusion of being a body. So even though you have perfect knowledge at the tip of your fingers and you can speak, you still completely conditioned by the bodily conception of life. And even though you may go through the process of atonement, in this case, Kamsa begged forgiveness. That's a process of atonement. He begged forgiveness from Vasudeva and Devaki, and he was able to obtain it because they were soft-hearted Vaishnavas, and they saw that he was sincere in his repentance. So they were pacified and they forgave. So still, he was not able to be free. He immediately bounced back. So the process of atonement, it is compared to a forest fire, like a bamboo forest fire. that it burns everything, but it doesn't burn the roots. So everything comes back again. Srila Sukadeva Goswami explains in the pastime of in the pastimes of Ajamil, that is only devotional service that can actually completely remove everything at the root of conditional life or sinful life. We hear that from Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, that devotional service is so powerful that actually goes at the root. So eliminates both parabdha and aparabdha manifestations of sin. So parabdha means manifested, aparabdha means unmanifested. So the key is that we have to surrender to Krishna. We have to surrender to Krishna to be able to overcome our conditional life. Without surrendering to Krishna, there is no question of overcoming that. Now the question is for us, okay, I'm trying, we, like Kamsa, we find ourselves at times seeing that we made a mistake. We're being victimized by our conditional nature at times. And we feel regretful, we feel repentant, we would like to change that. And we go through the effort, of reforming. And it still happens again. Just like the Kamsa, that happens to Kamsa. We study Prabhupada's books, and we can preach very nicely. But boy, someone step in my toe, and my conditional nature comes like it never changed. So I'm still conditioned by this, just like Kamsa. So what's the difference between Kamsa and me? But there's a big difference. Because the fact is that we have accepted Krishna as the Supreme Lord. And we actually calling to Krishna. And we making the effort to become Krishna's devotee. And it is expected that in the neophyte condition, in the neophyte stage of devotional service, Kanishta, we have to go through the painful process of gradually coming to a position of being steady in devotional service. Until we get to that position, which is the middle stage of devotional service, Madhyama, our devotion is going to be unsteady. So it's a roller coaster. Sometimes we're doing great, sometimes we're doing, not so great. But the difference is that we won't give up our endeavor to follow the process of Krishna consciousness. We go and go, and we start again. We chant our rounds, we follow our sadhana. Like we heard from His Holiness and Bhakti Sundar Maharaj was saying, that Prabhupada explains that we should never stop chanting, regardless. Like if you can, it's not natural for you, we chant. If I don't want to chant, we chant. If I feel tired or lazy or whatever, we chant. We just go for it. If you're actually making offenses, you still chant. If our mind is flying all over the place, well, chant. Just keep chanting. So don't stop chanting. So that's what makes a difference. And at one point we're going to break through, because it's gradual. But the fact is that we are trying, with the help of Krishna, to eliminate the same principles that rule a personality that comes in ourselves. And what is those things? What does Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita? What are the three things that does not allow us to fully surrender to Krishna? Chapter 15. He says, Nirmana mohita shanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinidvirita kamaha dvandair vimukta shukadukha samagyar gachantya mudhan padan abhayam tat. 15:5. Those who are free from false prestige, nirmana, illusion, mohajita, and false associations, sanga dosha, who understand the eternal, who are done with material loss, who are free from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain that eternal kingdom. So the first qualification is that we should not be deluded by pride. So somehow or other, this one is so difficult to get rid of. Sense of I am, and you should know who I am, and you should give me some respect. So pride, this sense of false prestige. Even if we are full, we still want to be the top fool. So we find ourselves some association of people likewise, and then we try to be, the best of those fools. And the illusion is that Prabhupada explains here. Actually, he says, let's see what he says. Illusion. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. So, in general, we have this bloated idea of self. And it translates, in our condition, in the beginning stages, in the neophyte stages of devotional service, we translate that condition into our devotional service. So we gain this pride on the things that we're learning by Krishna's grace. If we can speak a little philosophy, then we feel pride about it. If I can, do this or do that, cook nicely or, sing nicely, then there's pride. And then, it gives us a bloated idea of the self. I can do all these things. I can, save the world. I can guide people, whatever, things like that. And the other thing is association, false association, unwanted association. So we search for the association of devotees who are serious, who are committed to following or to try to eliminate these things. So a strong association will be a very important thing. So with these three things, making sure that we're trying to curb our pride, the illusion of this idea of we are this or we are that, and association of a search for association that is uplifting, then we can actually properly surrender to the Lord. So, very important message, very relevant. In the case of Kamsa, we're going to see how when you have no surrender to the Lord, what's happened? He just bounced back to demoniac. It's actually even worse. He gets worse than he was before. Because he was killing just the children of her sister. But now he's going to send demons to kill the children of all the children who was taking birth in Brajabhumi during that period of time. Every children. So pretty extreme. And in our case, we have to see that we have to come to the position of proper surrender to Krishna. Proper surrender. And that's, the teachings of Saranagati, which is the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Mam ekam sharanam brajadi. Saranagati, or surrendering, is the essence. And that's what we should concentrate on in the process of surrendering. Cultivating humility. Again, we keep singing, that verse, Trinara Pisunjinishana. Humility, tolerance, devoid of all sense of all prestige, and offer respect to others. Cultivating those things and accepting the 6 limbs of surrendering to Krishna, which is we see Krishna as our maintainer, our protector. We approach Krishna with humility, and we give everything to Krishna. I can't remember another 2. Protector, our maintainer. We approach him with humility. We give everything to him, Atmanivedana. And there's another 2. the thing to look for that. But you can look. The teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the 6 limbs of surrendering. Any comments or questions? Yes, Prabhuji. Oh, here it is. Okay. Just before Jai Baladev. Accepting everything favorable, those are the one, and rejecting things unfavorable, those are the other 2. So you accept things that are favorable to Krishna, you reject things that are unfavorable. Krishna as your protector, Krishna as your maintainer, and humility. Approach Krishna with humility and give everything to Krishna. So, anukulasya sankalpa pratikulya vivarjanam rakshyashyati vishwasya goptritve varanam tata atma nikshepa karpanye satvidhe saranagati. You got it? No. It's in the top wireless thing. You see a green light? No, the top wireless right there, that one. You just touch it. Yeah, that there's a little button there. By that green light. There's a button by the green light. Press.
All right, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Where's my note? Thank you for your class, Prabhu. What you mentioned, something I brought up.
Talk a little closer, that is somehow
Hare Krishna. You brought up one of my favorite analogies that I keep in mind, especially in Bhagavatam, but just in general. You said our devotional service in our beginning stages like a roller coaster. So you mentioned that analogy, which is one of my favorite ones, because we see that if somebody gets on a roller coaster, you can't read, you can't chant naturally. You know, you're all over the place. And so Maya is always tempting us, get on the roller coaster of anger, envy, vengeance. We see that people are on those roller coasters. You can't read the Bhagavatam, you can't chant your, even if you're in the Bhagavatam, you're not in the Bhagavatam because you're on a roller coaster. And so, so we see that that we do. Lord Chaitanya says that spiritual life should be anandam buddhi vardhana. But if we're not, and that's what a roller coaster is like. It's supposed to be fun, but if we're staying grounded, then where's the question of devotional service being fun? If I'm not on a ride, then you know, and that's what the ride is. Lust is a ride, or when our enemies go bankrupt, that's also a fun ride. And so I remember when my brother was giving a class to one Christian group, high school or college students that came here. And so they were inquiring about the rituals we have at our temple. And so at the end of the class, and my brother gave a very funny answer. At the end of the class, the Christian group asked my brother, so what do you do for fun? So my brother said, you mean reading the Bible isn't fun? You know, doing your spiritual practices isn't fun? So how are you supposed to maintain your spiritual life if what you're doing is not fun, or if you don't find any enthusiasm in it? And Lord Chaitanya told Prakashananda Saraswati, he said, Krishna Nam Mahamantreda Eta Swabhava Ye Japetara Krishna Upajaya Bhava. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can develop all ecstasy. But we see in the material world, we say, I think I could get more ecstasy out of my girlfriend. Just like when you think of Krishna, nothing. When you think of lust, wee! When you think of greed, wee! When you think of, so many things, the most material nature. So how are we supposed to maintain our spiritual life if we can't find any enthusiasm? And like the Bhagavad Gita says, develop the higher taste in chapter 259. So what are some steps we can move forward to develop this ruchi, this taste for devotional service? Otherwise we won't last too long. We see people come and go. I'm trying not to come and go, but this is one of my favorite analogies to stay grounded. So maybe you could explain how we could find fun in doing devotional service and hearing Bhagavatam.
Yeah, the key is associating with devotees who are advanced, and the other one is service to the devotees. In our position, we're like completely dependent on that. In a position, a neophyte position. What is it? Bishop Shena Katashuyat, how's it go, that verse? No, not the Bishop Shena Katashuyat, actually.
Shushusho
Shadadanasya
Vasudeva
Katashuyat.
Kataruchi Siyama Hatsevaya Vipra Punyatita Nisheva. I was actually thinking of that verse, so I didn't mention it.
That service to the devotees is what's going to give us the taste. So we're depending on service to the devotees. And sometimes we may think, well, what it says there is, the advanced devotees. So the non-such advanced devotees, they can be, you can kick them around, like that. You don't have to serve. But serving those who are under the shelter of the advanced devotees is even more dear to the devotees than serving them, direct service to them. So, service, that's almost like how we keep ourselves always in a very progressive, safe space. So serving the devotees, the proper attitude of service, which is something that goes at the heart of our pride, of our lack of humility, of our lack of tolerance, and our capacity to give respect. It really goes at that, to put yourself in a position of just serving the devotees, even though sometimes our ego may say, no, this person, this is not, the mind just starts to go, this person have no clue, this is not a devotee, blah, 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 you're not following, you're not example, you're not this, blah, 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 the whole thing, Yes, so we can overcome, that comes, then with that, then I cannot serve, because I cannot overcome my pride, I cannot overcome the illusion that I have, I cannot overcome any of that. So I can surrender. So until we get to the point we're going into, when we are situated in the space of humble service to the devotees, then you find there's a very safe position and you have less conflict. You're actually happier. You have less, things. We are unhappy when when our ego gets touched. And then, these persons are not recognizing me, or not giving me this respect, or not, appreciating me, like that, and etc., etc. So The key is on that humble service to the devotees. For us, mixed devotees, kanishtas, prakrita bhaktas, is a must. It's essential. It's completely, compulsory to be able to pass through. Otherwise, we'll be victimized. All the qualities that we get, just that pride, that position, won't allow them to have the fruit of, full surrender to Krishna. It will remain just, like shallow, and we still have to go through, it can go from years. I mean, it can, in an embarrassing way, say that I've been 35 years in Krishna consciousness, and still I can clearly see symptoms of Kanishta Adhikari. So I mean that I haven't gone that far, even through so many years. So you have to sort of review yourself. Oh, what am I doing wrong?
Are you saying we should feel like an advanced devotee? What am I'm doing something right?
Yeah, well, there's something that is right because I'm still here. After 35 years, I'm still, not giving up, But there's something that is not right because, you should be going, anyway. We not get, like, beating on yourself, Everybody has some perfect timing, but the point is that we have to refine and constantly refine our endeavor. And it's going at these points, especially these ingrained, desires of, this false ego, this thing of, I am, and I should be blah, blah, like that. And just accept, just embrace being a humble servant of the devotees, and just happily take it. Sometimes the devotee may not give you respect. I'm still a servant. Sometimes they will not appreciate what you do in your service. I'm still serving. Just like, you chant, you still chant. Don't give up. Same with service. We serve, we serve, we serve. Because we know that's the key. So, any other thought or comment, question? Kevin?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, we were talking about false ego and also false association. So I was thinking about the 5th canto, where it describes the descriptions of the cities inside the hellish planets, how there's demoniac kind of personalities, and people that are inside of those locations, and how they're fearless of death. Actually, they don't even fear death. But then, so I was thinking of the question, sometimes there can be devotees who are actually faithful to Krishna. They know that Krishna is the supreme, and then there's also the maybe more highly like a false ego type of person that's maybe they're not believing in Krishna being the supreme, or maybe not believing in any kind of God, but they're expressing that they're fearless, and they're fearless of even death. So I was maybe seeing if you could elaborate maybe like the differences, like associating with like someone who's actually fearless, and then maybe a devotee who's fearless, and maybe some description.
Someone who is associating with one who, someone who is?
Or someone who's fearless, and maybe even fearless of death, like a materialist person who doesn't believe in any supreme or God, and then associating with a devotee who's actually fearless, also in the same way, maybe. very confident and fearless. Yeah, maybe the difference. Yeah, like both are fearless. Maybe the.
Well, if you have no fear of death, you either not or you're an impersonalist or a transcendentalist. Sorry. So, a transcendentalist is not fear of death. A crazy person is not fear of death. So, obviously, we're not talking here about associating with a crazy person, but associating with a transcendentalist, then there's different types of transcendentalists. So the impersonalist is a transcendentalist that have no fear of death, but has no regard for the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus feet. And that's what Lord Brahma explains. Patantyado nadrita yusman angrajaha. Because they have no regard for the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down from the position, even from the position of liberation. In the impersonal Brahma, they fall down again. Because they have no regard, proper regard for the lotus feet of the Lord. So that association we don't want either, because what is the use? You know, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, what is it? I think Prabhupada Saraswati says that, you know, it's worse than going to hell to get that type of liberation. So, the association that we want is association of devotees, transcendentalists who accept and embrace and serve the lotus feet of the Lord. Other transcendentalists, be yogis, be jnanis, we respect as transcendentalists, but we avoid association. Prabhupada says that, well, quotes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who quotes, you know, Lord Chaitanya, that hearing from the lips of a non-devotee transcendental knowledge is like taking meal that have been touched by the lips of a serpent. So it's poisonous. So you don't want to do that. So association with devotees is one.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, madam. Wait for the microphone. I know, but we put it in the internet.
Yes. I wanted to kind of support that with some other thoughts. You know, when you're dealing with the youth, whether you say the millennials or this particular group or that, they have what they call the Gen X and so on and so forth, they're extremely disturbed in the sense of feeling a part of, and I've always been, I thank the Lord, or thank Krishna, I am very proud to say that I have always been an individualist, because when I was in high school, oh my gosh, everybody was doing drugs and doing this, but they still, during that time, they were going to graduate and do whatever, but it was so important to be a part of what was most popular. That has never been my, I've just never been that way. I have just never been that way. So be an individual and always do what is conscious. When they speak of the Paramatma of the heart, all my life there was that voice. Before I came to Krishna consciousness, I was a spiritualist, I guess you would say, and I was always seeking religion, but in your heart, Krishna is always speaking to you. When you leave out of the house and you weren't sure if you had the keys and you closed the door and there was that little voice, that feeling telling you to check your purse and you didn't do it, that again, there's always that, they can call it gut feeling, but there is Krishna or the Supreme Lord always talking to you, but many times we're ignoring it because it's more important for us to feel a part of what is popular or our peers. And the younger people, it's always been fun to me. I tell you, like with my granddaughter, we have a great time. We have our little parties and we're talking about Krishna. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like in college, they had toga parties. I was like, what? You know, I didn't even know. I said, oh my gosh, no. So I go practice my instrument, but have the inner strength and believe in Krishna and just be an individual. And of course, there's the devotees. And that doesn't mean all the devotees are perfect, but they're on point and they're focused in one direction. But have that inner strength to be the individual and do what is right. And it's fun. I mean, it's not boring. You know, only boring people are bored. There's always something to do that is wonderful. Just turn the music off, turn and listen to nature and think and absorb and go within oneself.
Thank you. Okay, so we stop here. Grantara Shriman Bhagavatam ki Jai.